So you want to explore Azeroth and only have 5 minutes to do it? I'm Hidden Azeroth, and here's 5 5-minute explorations in World of Warcraft. To start off at number 5, we're heading to the coast of Gilneas to explore the X-2 Pincer. The submarine is part of the Horde Gilneas questline, and as such is never explored. And while the front door may be sealed, that's hardly enough to stop an intrepid explorer like yourself from getting inside. Heading underwater, we can look inside the sub and see that despite never being accessible, the inside is still fully decorated. And in fact, an identical version of this sub can be found in the Alliance Garrison shipyard, although that version is also inaccessible. Now, getting inside either submarine is pretty easy. You're going to want to swim underneath one of the 2 claw arms, raise yourself up directly underneath it, and then start to mount up on a large mount like a mammoth. When you're about 3/4 of the way through summoning the mount, use Alt F4 to close the game. Once you log back in, you should be mounted up and clipped through the bottom of the claw arm. From here, swim up slightly, dismount, and then move yourself up along the arm. You have a decent amount of space to work around, but try to stay generally inside the claw, because if you get too far away, you'll go outside the sub and need to start over. Once you're lined up with where the top of the arm joins the sub, swim inward and you should pop inside of the sub. You're now free to explore the sub at your leisure. Looking outside the windows, we can see the coastline of Gilneas, and interestingly, despite the fact we're never supposed to be in here, the game still differentiates the inside of the sub from the rest of the water. Possibly because at some point during the game's development, we were supposed to go inside the vehicle. This would explain the level of detail that went into what's basically an unused asset. Reaching the 2nd floor, we can see that the textured surface of the water intersects the sub and is still visible from certain angles. As discussed in my Crucible of Storms exploration, this is because the texture and movement aspects of a body of water are 2 different properties in the game. Despite never being visible, the upper level of the cabin is also intricately decorated, further supporting that this was at some point supposed to be explorable. A Nomergon banner can even be found just behind the front door. Heading back to the 1st floor of the sub, we can use a goblin glider to access the small balcony above the command panel. Your area of movement is limited, but like the rest of the sub, it's intricately decorated. While it may not be the biggest ship, its unique design and interesting decorations makes it a worthwhile stop on any explorer's travels. Up next at number 4, we have the Kirin'Var shipwreck floating in the twisting never of the Outlands. On the southernmost edge of Neverstorm is the remains of Kirin'Var village. Once an Alliance settlement during the first invasion of Draenor, the town was originally built on the coast of a devouring sea. However, when Draenor was torn apart and cast into the twisting never by Gul'dan, the ocean fell away, and one surviving ship landed on a floating rock and was left stranded a few hundred meters away from the town. Exploring the lower decks, we can see that the supplies are in disarray and the bottom of the ship has been smashed. This most likely occurred when the water fell away, and the boat was dropped onto the rock where it now rests. Dried seaweed hangs inside the boat, and sediment fills the lowest level. Investigating the outside of the ship, we can see that the anchor still hangs in a futile attempt to keep the vessel moored. And from above, chunks of rock from a twisting never float aimlessly back and forth. While it may not be the flashiest exploration, shipwrecks are always cool, and a shipwreck floating in the void is a welcome addition to any explorer's checklist. At number 3, we have one of the oldest and most well-known explorations in World of Warcraft, WKM. Hidden inside a stone pillar just north of the drag, WKM used to be a somewhat complex exploration. However, a new method has made it relatively easy. Simply position your character underneath the rock ledge on the north side of the pillar and begin to mount up on a tall flying mount, closing your game with Alt F4 3/4 of the way through the cast just like we did with the X-2 Pincer. Once you log back in, fly up a few feet, move forward, line yourself up with a box above you, and fly vertically upwards, dismounting once you enter the stone tunnel. From here, transition to a smaller mount so you can fit up the small stone shaft above you and fly upward again. Once you reach the ceiling, shift sideways and dismount, and you'll find yourself inside the WKM chamber. The chamber itself is somewhat sparse, containing only a candle and a plaque reading WKM. These 3 letters are one of the oldest mysteries in WoW, as no one is sure what they stand for. Some suspect it's a tribute to the late Blizzard artist Michael Coiter, who passed during the production of Vanilla WoW and has several other tributes to him hidden throughout the game. However, in response to a ticket asking this in 2011, the Game Master petition said they don't currently know what the letters stood for, and it was likely only known by a few members of the design team who put it in originally. And while the true meaning of WKM may be lost to time, its significance in WoW history makes it a worthwhile stop on any explorer's checklist. At number 2, we have Andrestrasz, the Sleeping Drake. Hidden amongst the trees on the southernmost tip of the uninstanced version of Ahn'Qiraj, there's a small cave which is completely off the beaten path of any quests or stories in the area, and completely empty with the exception of one NPC, a constantly sleeping red drake named Andrestrasz. Andrestrasz was added during Mists of Pandaria in patch 5.3, and to this day, players have never figured out a way to interact with him. Whether or not he was added as a tribute, or what purpose he was added for, is still unknown, and the only reference ever made to him was by Blizzard developer Dave Maldonado, who in 2014, when asked about the origin of Andrestrasz, said he wasn't sure, but assumed it was an homage to a 5-year-old child named Andre. Since then, no further indications towards the source of his existence have been made, so for the time being, he'll have to remain a sleeper on any explorer's checklist. And finally, at number 1 we have the Dalaran Arena. Located in the underbelly of Watlik Dalaran, you may already be familiar with this location as a common 2v2 and 3v3 arena. However, the uninstanced version of it found in Dalaran City is not typically accessible to players, but there is a way to get in. To get inside yourself, you're going to need to exit the sewers and fly to the Mage's Commerce Exchange, where we're going to use a method found by Gatedemon the Warlock to navigate blindly underneath the city and find our way into the sewer. His video can also be found in the description below. Once at the Mage's Commerce Exchange, place yourself against the tailoring shop sign before flying upwards to clip through the ceiling. Once here, very carefully inch yourself forward until you're directly above the gray bar, at which point you need to fly straight down below the city. Orient yourself towards the base of the 2 pillars I'm currently facing and fly forward. Once you're beneath the city, you need to be careful, because there's no way to see where you're going and you can get disconnected in various locations. After a few seconds, you'll suddenly be inside the underbelly arena, where you'll be dismounted and dropped through the floor. From here, you can swim around in the water underneath the arena and look at it from below. To get out, simply swim up to the surface and jump upwards through the floor, although be aware you won't be able to get back into the water once you do. Once in the arena itself, you'll find it's an exact copy of the instanced version where 2v2 and 3v3 duels are held. However, since players can look down into the arena from above, in lieu of actual players fighting here, every few minutes, gladiator NPCs will spawn in and fight each other to the death. In a few moments, one such fight is about to begin. At the start of a fight, 2 NPCs for each side will spawn in each of the starting tunnels. Each will then jump down, run up onto the center platform, and begin dueling each other to the death. The NPCs use a variety of PvP abilities such as fears and stuns, and will fight back and forth for about a minute. In lieu of actual names, they're named things like Red Mage and Blue Priest. Regardless of faction, they're always considered friendly and can't be interacted with or helped. When both members of one team dies, the other runs to the center and celebrates for a few seconds before all despawn. This event occurs every 5 to 10 minutes, and if we look above us, we can see the sewer grate through which players in the underbelly can watch the fights from. So whether you're an avid explorer, or you just have 5 minutes until raid time, these 5 5-minute explorations are all well worth a visit. And as always, thanks for watching.